nasty. This follows on from Undoing Illusion, where I talked about the idea of things and things themselves, and that an idea of something is not the same as the thing. And so we may understand the idea of a light year, but we do not know what a light year is. I used the example where I was asked to guess how long a minute was, and somebody put the stopwatch on and I guessed it was 45 seconds. So although if you ask me, do you know a minute, I'd say yes, I know a minute. In reality, I don't. I know the idea of a minute. I know that it's a 60th of an hour, and an hour is a 24th of a rotation of the earth. But those are ideas, they're not the same. And in the Course in Miracles it talks about our self and our ego. And I think basically our ego is an idea of self. It's not self. And so because our ego is based on body survival, it's a system of thinking using ideas that is basically fear-based. It does not acknowledge the immortal soul. It does not acknowledge our invulnerability. It operates purely as if maintaining our body is the only purpose in being here. I see in England, where I live, I see a spiritual vacuum. People seem to have lost faith in everything except the material world, and I think it's to their own loss. It's a great shame. But if I was to say to somebody, yourself is not real, they would probably have me locked up. They wouldn't understand what I was talking about. What I'm really saying is that this idea of self is not real. It's an illusion. Our ego is an illusion in the sense that it's a bunch of ideas about ourselves that we think define what we are, when in reality they don't define what we are. The ideas about self define what we think we are. So we're holding belief in a group of ideas. And this is where conflict comes from. This is where stress comes from in life. It's always the self at war with the idea of self. So the true self is the immortal soul. However, the ego is a kind of society definition of who we are, where we fit in, which family we're a member of, which country we're a member of, male, female, what kind of job. This is all ideas about what we are. The part of us that knows what we are is generally silent. When we sit in meditation, we get in touch with that silent part, that knowing part of us, and it's a very empowering thing to do. I remember in church one day the vicar told us about Jesus had said, "Be still and know that I am God," and I think it's a direct reference to meditation. Through the stillness within meditation, we access the knowing of what we are. Now the Course says in one of the lessons, "I call upon your name, which is mine own," meaning I call upon God's name. Now if we are God's children, then we are part of God, and so His name is our name. I say His name, no offence to any feminists. His, hers, its. We're talking about a trans-empirical reality. It's a level of intelligence that we're all connected to. I do believe this is where the voice of the conscience comes from. And so what we experience in normal human living is a conflict between, say, the conscience and what we think is the personality. So we've got this group of ideas that we think define us, that we say is who we are, you know, nationality, family, job, male, female, etc. But it doesn't actually define, doesn't touch what we really are. What we really are remains silent in the background, aware of the game, and it is a game. And a common experience, I'm led to believe, is that people go through some kind of emotional crisis, and they wake up in the middle of the night saying, who am I, and what am I doing here, and what is the meaning of life? Well, of course, the ego always tells us that the meaning of life is get more food, or get more money, or get a better car, a house, an attractive partner, etc., etc. Because then we'll be better, we'll be okay, we'll be complete. So the ego always works on the basis that we've never really got what it takes, that we're not up to it, that we're always lacking. So the ego sees everything and everybody in the universe as something that will make us complete, providing we can get it. And then the ego tells us how to do that. But the true self doesn't actually need anything to be complete. It is what it is. Our true self is our awareness, it's our consciousness, it's our ability to take part in life, and our ability to observe life, and to construct solutions, to adapt, to think, to grow. It's never lacking. The idea that you got a B instead of an A when you did your test at school does not define your soul as a B soul. It's an ability that was being measured. It may be that you got a B because you're not good at that subject, but you may be brilliant at something else. But the ego takes every idea and holds it against us. And the ego is very good at turning what are just qualities into what we feel are defects, and that maintains this feeling of not being good enough, not being lovable. And since God is love, we don't belong with God. And this is why ego used to be called, in the days of Jesus, was known as Satan the deceiver. That's what the ego is. And it's a way of thinking. It's using ideas to keep us from the love of God, to stop us from seeking the love of God, which when we seek it, ultimately we discover it gives us permission to approve of ourselves. There's a lovely section in the Course in Miracles that says, who am I? What is my worth? I'm not the me that I think I am. I'm not the me that society thinks I am. My true value is held safely in the mind of God, because God is the knowing mind. And in the knowing mind, we are an idea. We are a definition within the mind of God. But an idea on that level is not like the kind of reflective ideas that we use to try and put a false value on us. Our reflective ideas are reflective ideas, but they're ideas, they're not knowledge. And only God knows us. And since God is unconditionally loving, we're perfect in his eyes, or her eyes, or its eyes, whichever you choose. Thank you for listening. Namaste.